Okay, so I've been using iPhones for 12 years now, but people ask me all the time, Charmaine, which is better, iOS or Android? Well, stick around because I finally have an answer. Hi there, welcome back to Simply Mobile. I'm Charmaine, and today I'm going to be looking at the differences between iOS and Android to see which is the best. Before I do, remember to hit that bell and subscribe to the channel so that you never miss out on all of our amazing smartphone tips and tricks. Okay, so back to the question at hand. When I was doing my research for this video, I found out some very interesting points. There are 3.2 billion smartphone users worldwide. And if you live in a country such as England, America, Australia, or Canada, you might believe that iOS is dominating the market. Mostly true. Those 4 countries, which are all English speaking incidentally, iPhone leads the market share by between 50 and 58%. If you were to look on a global scale, you'd see that Android dominates the market share by 78%. The reason that Android tends to dominate worldwide is down to my first point of comparison, which is cost. Now, an entry-level iPhone, which would be the iPhone SE, will set you back £400 in England. Android has a much bigger range of handsets to choose from. Many of these are available in the £100 to £400 price range. Back to the important point of which is actually better, it's important to note that once you get to the top end of the market, the prices even out somewhat. Another really important factor that most people just don't consider is the resale value of the phones. After 2 years, Apple products tend to lose about 35% of their value. By comparison, Android products tend to lose about 65% of their value. So Android might win on the point of original cost, but iPhone definitely has it in terms of resale value. So the second point of difference is the physical phones themselves. Android has a much bigger range of phones to choose from, some with specific features like they're dust-proof or they might be extra durable. There are even foldable phones. With iPhone, everything looks the same, but it's a different size. Another important physical point of difference is that Android comes with expandable storage. Some Android handsets have an SD card slot, and others you can simply expand the storage by plugging in an external USB. With iPhone, the storage you get is the storage you pay for. And the third point of difference in this category is the battery life. It's just widely accepted that Android tends to have a better battery life than iPhone. Now, the most important differentiator that we need to look at is in the operating system itself. iPhone users tend to believe that gaming is far superior on iOS because of a better graphics card, and Android users believe that because it's a much more open system, there's a lot less restrictions and it's much easier to customize your experience within Android. So there are lots of differences in both operating systems, but I've narrowed it down to the 5 features which I feel are the most important for an average user on a daily basis. The first big difference is the amount of swiping going on. On iOS, when you want to get to your notifications, you swipe down. When you want to get to your control center, it's a second swipe. And if I want to get to my app library, I have to scroll all the way across to the very last screen, which, if you have a lot of screens open, it's quite annoying. By contrast, in Android, it's one single swipe and you have your notifications and your control center right there. And to get to your app library, it's one swipe up. And as a bonus in Android, there's a left side swipe here from the power button, and that brings up a shortcut menu. You can see some frequently used apps, and you can also view your entire app library here. Finally, my biggest annoyance on iOS is that in order to get to settings, you have to do a spotlight search for settings. That takes a while each time. Android is a lot more conscious about ease of access, so you can access your settings menu at any time from any screen with a single swipe down and select this icon here. The second area with a really big difference is between Apple Pay and Google Pay. So now if I go into my Apple Pay, you can see there's a lot of different credit cards that I can hold in there and tickets. can't really do much from this screen, but if I go my long-winded route to settings, let's have a look, where is it? There we go, Wallet and Apple Pay. You can see I can add my credit cards here. I've got some Disney cards which I've input straight from the Disney app. And there are some travel cards as well, just down here. But realistically speaking, there's not really a lot of scope to add any other type of card. On Google Pay, it's one quick swipe up to access my cards. And I can go to credit or debit cards here, add as many as I like. Or I can go to membership cards and I can add any membership cards I like. I can do airlines, apparel, arts and craft, I can do books and magazines. I mean, there are so many to choose from here. Grocery cards, health and wellness. This to me is a phenomenal feature, which is really useful, and Apple have really missed the boat on this. I love this. And what's more, I can add gift cards, so I can load or buy gift cards, whatever I like. So here's a selection of gift cards that I can buy. Okay, third point of difference, in my iOS keyboard, if I want to add a number to my text, I actually have to scroll to a second keyboard where the numbers are displayed. That's quite long-winded and annoying, but I do have a nice little toolbar at the top here where I can do formatting, or I can also do adding photos, I can add scans or documents. That's great until you see Android. So on my Android keyboard, you can see that the numbers are already there on the top row. No need to flick between two different keyboards. Already so much better. And then on the top row here, you can see there's some extra functionality that you don't see in iOS. For example, I can add a GIF straight into my email. Then there are some other features such as translate. I can actually translate from one language to another. I've selected from English to French. Put that into the email. Then I can also add a YouTube link straight into the email. And what else do we have? We have also another favorite here is the floating keyboard. So I can go onto my floating keyboard and move it anywhere I wish to on the screen. So much functionality, it's just so much better than iOS. As a side note, I did go ahead and download the Google keyboard directly onto my iPhone. It's pretty good. You can add numbers directly now without having to switch between keyboards. And there's a host of different features such as Google search, there's translation, YouTube, maps, contacts. It's better than the keyboard that comes with iOS, but I always think that a third-party app is never going to be as good as something that's native. A feature which is wholly unique to Android is split screen. Here I have the ability to choose two apps to view simultaneously. So I've got my Google Sheet open here, and let's just say I want to do some calculations but not affect the sheet. So I take my calculator app and I just drag it down here to the bottom, and there we have a nice split screen, and I can do my calculations as I wish. This is a huge feature, and I think iOS is really missing a trick not having included this. The iOS camera is packed with plenty of interesting functions, and they seem to expand with each new release of iOS. And other than taking photos and videos, my iOS camera can also deal happily with QR codes, which has been very useful over COVID when you're in a restaurant. I'm quite fond of my iPhone camera, but the one thing that really annoys me is that I oftentimes have to change my video settings when I'm recording for YouTube versus when I'm just recording some ordinary footage during the day. And in order to do that, of course, I have to go into my Spotlight search, go to settings, and then scroll down to find my camera. There we go, there it is. And then I can change my settings. A little bit long-winded, I think. Now, it will come as no surprise that on an Android, settings are right where they should be, inside the app itself, and you can do everything you want and go straight back to the camera. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about which platform is capable of taking better photos. Android's platform was initially developed for photography, and from a personal viewpoint, I do prefer the Android photos, but with my level of knowledge on photography, that might just be a subjective viewpoint. What I can say about Android is that the camera functionality expands way beyond photography. So firstly, we have the QR code just like we did in iOS. But there are additional features too. So first of all, we have Bixby Vision, which enables a whole host of functionality. First one is wine label. Look at that. $75, not bad. Next, we have translation. There we go, it translated the text from French to English. The next one we have is Discover, which is a bit like Google Lens. So let's see, we want to look at the outfit and copy where she got the outfit from. There we go, there's a whole load of outfits that we could buy. And finally, in this section, we have shopping. Amazon Assistant is going to help us to find that product. And there we go. There are plenty of amazing features in Android, but one thing I do want to mention especially is Director's View, which isn't available on iOS. And what that does is it allows you to use the front and the back camera simultaneously. So those are my 5 main points of difference. But a bonus point that I would like to mention is the difference between the App Store and the Play Store. In iOS, your App Store is right there. You can download whichever app you wish. And if you want to download movies or music, then you have to go to a separate app, which is the iTunes Store. I've been using iTunes and iOS for so long, that seems perfectly normal to me. However, now having used Android for a little bit, I go to my Play Store and I notice that all the apps and the movies are all in one place. I don't have to go to 2 separate apps to find them. Another thing to note is that in the App Store, there are 1.96 million apps available and 92.9% of those are free to download. In the Play Store, there are 3.4 million apps and 96.7% are free to download. So conclusion, I thought I would never, ever move away from iOS. But honestly speaking, having used this Android for a whole week now, I'm so in love with it. I'm so in love with the camera functionality. The pictures are so much better and I'm pretty bad at taking photos. And I just love the fact that it's just quicker to get to things. You don't have to keep going back into settings, which really irritates me. I'm very much going to consider moving to Android moving forward, which is a big surprise to me. It's a little bit like when you get a new boyfriend and you can't understand what you saw in the last one. Bye! So if you've enjoyed the video, remember to give us a like, hit subscribe, and leave any questions in the comments below because I will answer them. And if you want to learn a little bit more about getting the best out of your iOS, then make sure you check out my fellow apptician, Shane, for his amazing tips and tricks on iOS.